We often hear the term, the chosen ones, suggesting a special purpose or destiny. In Matthew 22:14, it says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." What does this really mean? What if being chosen isn't something you're born into? Instead, what if it comes from going through challenges that many people don't notice? This isn't just a fairy tale, it's about a spiritual journey. The Bible talks about figures like Moses, David, and Paul, who weren't picked because they were amazing from the beginning, but rather because they were ready to face difficulties that most would find hard to handle. They didn't just stumble into greatness, they grew stronger through hardships that tested their faith, patience, and strength. These challenges are often hidden. They push our spirit, mind, and soul. They require endurance and call out to those few who can confront and overcome them. Those who rise above these trials come out changed. They are individuals who have given up their own plans to follow their faith and discover their true purpose. So today, think of these challenges as signs that you might be among those chosen by God. Before we move on, please give this video a thumbs up so we can keep spreading these ideas, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Test number 1 is the test of identity. The journey of the chosen starts with a difficult question. Who am I really? In a world where our identity often relies on our roles, jobs, and how others see us, this question pushes us to look deeper. Many people define themselves by their jobs, relationships, possessions, or past experiences, hiding their true selves behind these labels and achievements. But the first test for those chosen is to remove all these layers and face who we really are. Like Moses, who left the comforts of Egypt to confront himself in the quietness of the wilderness, we are encouraged to see beyond our roles and titles. Who are we when no one is watching? When our identity isn't linked to our successes or status? This test acts like a mirror to show our true self. It urges us to let go of the ego and rethink the things we base our worth on. Many shy away from this test, preferring the safety of their crafted illusions, avoiding the uncertainty of looking within themselves. They retreat to the comfort of the roles and titles that define them. But for the chosen ones, this question stays in their hearts, waiting for them to confront it. Psalm 139:23-24 encourages us to reflect on ourselves. "Search my heart, O God, and understand my thoughts." This passage invites those chosen to let God's light into their deepest feelings, to face the things they've been avoiding, and to see themselves as God sees them. By responding to this call, individuals discover a deeper understanding of themselves. They allow God to remove their facades, revealing a person shaped for a purpose, someone God can work with beyond just their accomplishments or possessions. The chosen realize they are not measured by the world's standards, but by what God has placed in their hearts. This test of self-identity is challenging. It is a process of purification. It asks whether you will release your own image and let God define you. Those who endure this process emerge with a strength and clarity that only God can provide. When we surrender to this refining journey, we drop every false label and stand as we truly are, vessels ready for a higher purpose. Test number 2 is about isolation. The second challenge for the chosen is experiencing isolation. In a world that is always busy, filled with endless tasks and distractions from social media, taking a step back to experience solitude is not easy. However, there comes a time when those who are called must distance themselves from the noise and face who they are in silence. Before beginning his ministry, Jesus spent 40 days alone in the wilderness, away from everything he knew. This time alone was not punishment, it was to prepare him. Isolation lets us shed our distractions and allows us to hear our inner truth and the path we are meant to take. In solitude, we confront our biggest fears, insecurities, and unresolved feelings. Here is where we face true challenges, dealing with parts of ourselves we might have ignored for a long time. The silence forces us to face issues we'd rather avoid, and it's here that God often meets us in new ways, just as he did with Elijah on Mount Horeb. Elijah was alone, tired, and scared, yet he felt God's presence in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:12. In these quiet moments, God's voice becomes clear, guiding us, comforting us, and shaping us. Many people shy away from solitude, fearing what they might find within themselves. They prefer the comfort of being busy and the assurance of others' opinions. But those who are chosen recognize the strength found in embracing silence. They understand that genuine growth comes from facing their inner selves. In life, it's important to take breaks from expectations and everyday pressures. During these times, people can connect with God's voice, learning to hear His guidance, even when it feels hard. Being alone can be tough. It might feel uncomfortable or even painful, but for those chosen, it's a vital part of their journey. They discover that in silence, God shares truths that they couldn't recognize before. They learn to fully rely on Him, deepening their faith in ways that can only come from being alone. The chosen individuals realize that having a purpose often means going through times of separation, when they need to step back to grow closer to God and understand the calling He has given them. The third challenge is about letting go, which is quite difficult. In life, we tend to hold on to many things: our expectations, anger, dreams, and even our closest relationships. However, those who are truly chosen must learn to let go of these connections, trusting that God's plan is greater than ours. Abraham faced a similar test when God asked him to sacrifice Isaac, his beloved son. This wasn't meant to be cruel, but rather a test of faith, showing that sometimes what God desires doesn't fit with our plans. It requires a belief that says, "Lord, I trust you, even if it doesn't make sense." Letting go doesn't mean we abandon what we care about. Instead, it's about loosening our hold on our own plans and accepting God's greater purpose. It's not just a one-time act, but an ongoing process. Just when we believe we've let go, life presents us with another situation where we must ask ourselves if we can release this too. It reminds us that true faith is shown not by what we keep, but by what we are willing to give up for God's sake. Jesus illustrated this idea when He said that anyone who wants to follow Him must deny themselves and take up their cross. Matthew 16, verse 24. Letting go isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of strength. It means giving up control over our lives and placing our hopes and future in God's hands, trusting that His plans are good, even if they look different from what we imagine. Those chosen understand that this challenge can be tough, often involving the need to set aside dreams that took a long time to form or letting go of important relationships. Yet in doing this, they find a freedom that can't be achieved by holding tightly to things that were never meant to be theirs. They come to learn that God's plan is filled with incredible possibilities far beyond what they had envisioned. They can dream big, but only if they believe in Him with open hands. This challenge involves giving up things, but it also builds strong faith. With every moment of letting go, they begin to notice God's loyalty more clearly, realizing that He fills every gap they create for Him. The chosen ones are those who move ahead, leaving their own desires behind, filled with the calm that comes from knowing that God's plan is always bigger than any plans they might create for themselves. Test number 4, the dark night of the soul. This fourth test, often called the dark night of the soul, has pushed even the strongest believers to their breaking point. It's a time filled with deep struggles and heavy hardships, where it seems like everything is falling apart. Relationships break, jobs end, and life feels covered in gloom. However, this isn't a punishment from God. It's more like a cleansing fire that removes everything that doesn't fit our true selves. Job experienced this test when he lost his family, riches, and even his good health, wrestling with tough questions about God's fairness and love. During this dark time, God is not taking His love away. Instead, He is peeling off the surface layers we've wrapped around ourselves, letting what is real and unshakable come to the surface. The chosen understand that this darkness won't stick around forever, and even when they can't feel God's presence, they hold on to the truth that He is still at work in the silence. As Psalm 23:4 says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." It's a reminder that His steady hand is guiding them through this challenge, removing false comfort and temporary securities, leaving only what is true. The chosen must remain strong in their faith, even when they have more questions than answers. They bear a silence that feels heavy, and where God's voice seems far away, yet they continue because they know there's a reason for this time. In these moments, they begin to recognize the strength God has placed within them, a light that shines even in their toughest times. For those who persevere, the dark night serves as a pathway to a clearer understanding of God and a deeper sense of purpose. They come out not just with answers, but with a heart that trusts beyond what they can see or feel. This is where the chosen ones are shaped, not by ease, but by a faith that remains steady amid challenges. Know that this journey is creating space for God's light to enter in ways beyond what we could have imagined before. Those who are chosen come out of this challenge realizing that the darkness had a reason, and in the quiet moments, God was shaping their spirits, making them ready for His call. The fifth challenge is the test of faith during tough times. We are encouraged to live by faith, not just by what we see. This test invites us to have strong trust, not only in God, but also in the purpose that lies ahead, a purpose we might not completely grasp just yet. It's a faith that stays firm in God's goodness, even when life feels heavy with struggles. Hebrews 11 verse 1 describes faith as the reality of what we hope for and the proof of what we cannot see. During this hard season, we need to rely on what's not visible, trusting that our suffering has its meaning. Having faith during tough times is central to the chosen ones. Believing is easy when everything is clear, but true faith is revealed in uncertainty. Just like Peter, who took the brave step of leaving the boat to walk on water, we are called to move forward without clear signs that we won't fail. Peter understood the danger, but he also realized that the one calling him was stronger than the storm. This test is less about having all the answers and more about placing trust in the one who leads us, even when the way ahead is unclear. The chosen ones know that faith isn't based on comfort or certainty. It's about holding on to a strong hope that God is working, even when His plans aren't obvious. This dark time may seem confusing to the world, but for those chosen, it's a chance to grow closer to God. It's a moment to let go of control, recognizing that even if they lack all the answers, they know the one who does. They choose to believe that God's timing and ways are far greater than human understanding, and they keep moving ahead during this challenge. In this experience, the hearts of the chosen are shaped, finding strength in a hope that doesn't depend on good circumstances. They hold on, not because every answer is clear, but because they trust the promises of the one guiding them. Their faith deepens, becoming a light that shines brightly, even in dark times. This is where they find a peace that doesn't rely on what they can see and a strength that comes from completely letting go. In the middle of this challenge, the chosen continue forward, not because every step is understood, but because they believe in the one who is leading their way. They move ahead, grounded by a hope that remains steady despite the unknown. They trust that God's faithfulness is their base, even when the path ahead seems blurry. The sixth test we face is the test of surrender. Reaching this stage means we have already shown resilience, strength, and endurance. However, now we must give up our own plans completely and allow God to take the lead. Jesus demonstrated this in the Garden of Gethsemane, praying, "Not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22, verse 42. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about aligning what we want with God's purpose. This test teaches us how to be humble and obedient, urging us to let go of the need to control outcomes and to trust in God's timing and wisdom. True strength for those chosen lies not in forcing things to happen, but in being open to God's greater plan. Surrender becomes a strong act of faith, recognizing that God knows what is best, even when the way ahead is unclear. In this act of surrender, we find peace, a quiet confidence that no matter what happens, we are safe in God's hands. Those chosen understand that surrender is not a defeat, but a way to let God guide us, finding rest in His perfect wisdom. The seventh test is the test of awakening. This final test for the chosen is a moment of clarity, where we truly grasp our purpose and see how God views us. It's the peak of all trials and struggles that have come before, providing a vision that transforms everything. The chosen awaken to their identity in Christ, realizing they are not just loved, but chosen for a special mission. They view their lives not as random events, but as a carefully crafted path leading them closer to God and helping them understand themselves better. In this awakening, we understand that every challenge and every painful moment had a larger purpose. These trials were steps that guided us towards freedom, joy, and a purpose that goes beyond ourselves. We come to a place where fear and ego no longer control us. This awakening empowers the chosen to live boldly and to embrace God's plan without being held back by doubt or insecurity. This clarity brings an unshakable peace and a strength that arises from knowing who we are and to whom we belong. We see our past struggles as tools God used to mold us, and now we are ready to walk confidently in the purpose He has set for us. Are you one of those selected to take on this journey? Are you ready to go through challenges that test your sense of self, your feelings of solitude, your ability to let things go, face the darkness, have faith, give in, and awaken to new possibilities? This path isn't simple, and these challenges aren't meant for those who are easily discouraged. However, if you can persevere, you will come out changed, ready to embrace a life that is full, free, and in line with what God has planned for you. This is the journey for the chosen ones. It's not about being flawless or extraordinary. It's about having the courage to grow, to believe, and to release control. Let's walk this journey side by side, for the reward waiting for us is greater than we can ever picture. Amen.